I graduated from the College of William & Mary with a BA in History, honors degree. I enlisted almost right away in the U.S. Navy and served until I applied to graduate school, and I transferred from Johns Hopkins, where I did my first year of graduate work, to Harvard, received my PhD in 1978, and then spent 32 years at the University of Massachusetts in Boston, from which I resigned last year to accept the position of founding professor at the American College of History and Legal Studies.
Is the fact that you really do become individualistic. You talk about the individuals. As a matter of fact, you have a bunch of pictures of what you call troublemakers.
We have a rogues gallery in the hall outside, a variety of women and men who have made their mark by speaking out, by opposing the status quo, the establishment, and as I say, causing trouble in one way or another.
Pick out a few of them, talk about them, if you could.
Well, in the corner there, the far corner of this room, is William Lloyd Garrison, the publisher of The Liberator.
John Greenleaf Whittier.
Yes.
Pretty much a partner with him as well.
Whittier wrote some remarkable verse, and a lot of it he wrote in dialect. He was fiercely anti-slavery. He was against our invasion of Mexico and the war with Mexico in 1846-48. He opposed American domination of neighboring countries, very much against our military adventurism, but yes, a bitter foe and crusader against slavery. And just behind the cameraman is Eugene Debs, a socialist, a labor leader. He ran for president 4 times. And twice drew over 1 million votes in the presidential election. And
there are quite a few women that I noticed that you have pictures of. Could you maybe talk about a couple of those?
Well, one of the women in this room is Dr. Mary Walker. She was a Civil War surgeon, and for her exploits in the battlefield trying to save lives, she was awarded by Congress the Medal of Honor. Only woman to be awarded the Medal of Honor. After the Civil War, Congress thought better of awarding the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest decoration, to a woman, and wrote her a letter and said, please send it back. And she said, nothing doing, I'm keeping it. Wow. Facing her is Eleanor Roosevelt, who was a prime leader during the Depression and long afterwards, long after her husband passed. Eleanor Roosevelt is working for the rights of women and children and the poor, and crusading, and being threatened by the Ku Klux Klan, which planted dynamite under her car on one occasion, trying to blow her up.
And there's another picture over here that you were talking to me about.
Alice Paul. She was a feminist and suffragette who was trained in methods and tactics by the Pankhurst sisters in England. She came back to this country on the eve of World War I and gave President Woodrow Wilson fits. After he was inaugurated in 1913. She led her followers to picket the White House, marching around and around the block. They chained themselves to the fence around the White House. She was thrown into the D.C. jail, and when she went on a hunger strike, they force-fed her by jamming a tube into her mouth to pound mush into her to keep her alive. But they couldn't break her. Eventually, President Wilson had to compromise, and she called off her picketers.
General John Stark you have a picture of as well.
Yes, John Stark. The state motto of New Hampshire, of course, came from a letter he wrote to some of his aging veterans long after the Revolution. He told his men, live free or die.
Right on, right on. A little bit of story about him, other than that, his war days, more or less?
Stark was plowing in his field near Manchester, New Hampshire, when he got the word of Lexington and conquered. He left his horse and his plow in the field. He grabbed his musket and his coat and started walking south. And he hadn't gotten a mile before he was being followed by a crowd increasing in size of men and boys, all off to fight the British.
Excellent, excellent. Do you think we've learned anything?
Well, somebody once said that history doesn't repeat itself, but sometimes it rhymes.